Hello, salam and Julie to all you lovely students in the dark. My name is Nilza. I hope you're doing really well and taking care of yourselves in this period of coronavirus and taking care of yourselves and your family. So today I have a very wonderful story from the state of Haryana, which is in North India. And this is a folk tale. So I'm going to read it out to you and I hope you really like it. The name of the story is The Two Trevellers, as you can see from this book, and the story has been written by Girja Rani Asthana. So let's begin the story. In a village in Haryana lived a farmer named Chaudhary Hari Singh. His home was on the main highway and weary travellers often knocked at his door for shelter and food. Hari Singh loved such unexpected visitors and readily offered them his hospitality. He would tell his wife, "How lucky I am that so many guests come to my house and give me a chance to serve them." Yes, guests are just like God. To serve them is like serving God, she would agree. Gradually, it became such a habit with him that at meal times he would wait anxiously for tired travelers to drop in. He would welcome them, offer them food, and only after they had dined would he have his meal. He made it a rule not to eat unless he had hosted at least 2 guests. But a day came when no one knocked at his door. Hari Singh waited and he waited in vain. Soon it was dinner time. His wife came to him and said, "Your food has gone cold. Why don't you eat now?" "How can I? I have not fed any guests," he objected. "Look, this is the festival season. Diwali is just 2 days away. So there are very few people on the road. You can make an exception this time." "No, I have vowed to eat only after feeding 2 weary travelers. I will go out and look for someone in need of food and rest." Chaudhary Hari Singh went out. For a long time, he roamed around and around on the highway looking for tired wayfarers, but he couldn't find anyone. Soon he was tired and hungry and he longed to go home. But how could he return without his travelers? Seeing a sweet shop across the road, he went and he sat down on a cot in front of it. "Please, can you give me some water?" he asked the shopkeeper. The man knew Hari Singh. He offered him sweets along with a glass of water, and the sweets were actually toys made of sugar candy for the Diwali festival, and the shop was full of them in every shape. There were birds, there were lions, there were ducks, and there were even human figures. "You're looking very tired, Chaudhary. What's the matter?" the shopkeeper inquired. "Today was a very unlucky day," Hari Singh replied despondently. "No one came to my house for food and rest. And you know, I don't eat unless I have fed 2 travelers. I'm really very tired and hungry." So here in this wonderful picture, this wonderful illustration, we see that Chaudhary Singh is sitting on this cot in front of a store, in front of this candy shop. And this is the shopkeeper who has come with water and sweets for Chaudhary Singh, who is his friend. And you can see that these are the different shapes of sugar candy dolls that belong to this shopkeeper. So he has a store full of these toys. The shopkeeper thought for some time. He looked at the sugar candy toys in his shop. Here was his chance to make a permanent customer in Hari Singh. He picked up 2 dolls and brought them to Hari Singh. "Take these dolls home and offer them food the way you would to real travelers." "But how can I mean, they are not real travelers." Hari Singh looked puzzled. "It's very simple. We make offerings to idols of gods and goddesses, don't we, before breaking a fast? You can do the same with these toys. After all, guests are just like God for us." As Hari Singh was very hungry, the idea appealed to him. He took the sugar candy dolls home and he told his wife what the sweet seller had said. "It's a marvelous idea," she exclaimed. She was worried because if her husband didn't eat, neither could she, and she was now very hungry. That day, Hari Singh offered food to the two sugar candy travelers and ate his food contentedly. The next day, when real travelers appeared, he fed them and gave the sugar candy dolls to his 8-year-old son. The boy was delighted. "What luck," he said happily. "I hope this happens often." And it did happen again and again. When no one came to Hari Singh's house, he would go to the sweet shop, he would buy 2 sugar candy dolls, and he would bring them home and feed them. The next time, when real travelers arrived, his son got to eat the sweets. The boy began to look forward to the days when no guests came by so that more dolls could be brought. Many days passed and once again no visitors came to Hari Singh's house, so he went to the sweet shop and bought his 2 travelers. And the travelers are the 2 sugar candy toys. His son was very happy and he looked forward to eating them. The next evening, there was a knock at the door. Hari Singh opened it to find 2 weary souls outside. "Welcome, welcome," he said, and he led them into the house. Both father and son were very happy to see them. The father was happy because he loved to welcome guests, and the son because he knew he would feast on 2 sugar candy doll travelers now. Hari Singh offered the men water to wash their hands and feet and made them comfortable on 2 cots. The servant brought them 2 tall glasses of buttermilk and sweets. "Please drink this while dinner is being prepared," he smiled. After the travelers had finished eating, the servant brought in a hookah for the guests to smoke. "Do you come from far?" Hari Singh inquired with interest. "Oh yes, from beyond the Hindu Kush mountains," they replied. "That's very interesting. Please tell me more about your travels," Hari Singh urged. So as you can see, these are the 2 weary travelers who had come from beyond the Hindu Kush mountains, and they have come to the house of Hari Singh, and Hari Singh will be serving them food and shelter, and these 2 travelers are very delighted to be at Hari Singh's house. Alright. The 2 men had lots to tell Hari Singh. Their stories were so fascinating that Hari Singh forgot everything as he listened to them. Time flew by and soon it was dinner time. His son, on the other hand, was not interested in their tales at all, but waited impatiently to eat the sugar candy travelers. When the boy saw no sign of the elders getting up for dinner, he went to his father and he whispered loudly, "Father, can I eat one of the travelers?" "No, let them have their food first. Only then you can eat," Hari Singh remonstrated sternly. Disappointed, the son left, glaring at the guests. The men overheard what he had said and their ears pricked up. What does this mean? Eat one of the travelers? They wondered, but they kept quiet. After some time, the boy returned and asked his father the same question. "Oh, I have told you, let them have their dinner first, then you can eat them both," replied Hari Singh, irritated. The guests became really alarmed now. Why was the boy coming in and asking the same question again and again? They exchanged nervous glances. "Is there something that we don't know?" One gestured. "Something is not right," the other shook his head. Reluctantly, they continued to tell their stories. As time passed, the boy became more and more impatient. He came in once more and said, "Father, either you feed them or I'm going to eat the 2 travelers." "Oh, be patient, son. I've told you to let them finish their meal. Once they have dined, you can eat them both." Hari Singh frowned. The travelers were panic-stricken. Who were these people? Were they demons or evil spirits who lured innocent travelers with the promise of food and shelter, only to gobble them up? "It seems that they will not eat us till we have had our dinner. The best way to save our lives is not to eat, come what may," whispered one of the men into his companion's ear. When the son entered yet again and pestered his father for the travelers, Hari Singh relented. He requested the guests to have dinner. The men were waiting for this. They said firmly, "We are not hungry. We had our dinner in the last village we stopped at." "But surely that was a long while ago. You must be hungry again. Please eat something, Hari Singh insisted. We are not hungry. We don't want to eat anything, the travelers replied stubbornly. But you must, or I will have to go hungry too. How can I eat unless my guests haven't eaten? Hari Singh persisted. Just then, the boy gave his ultimatum. Father, either you feed them or I am going to eat the travelers. It was the last straw. Terrified, the two men just jumped up. We don't want any food, we just want to leave, they gasped. Hari Singh was desperate too. If the travelers left without eating, how could he have his meal? And he was really hungry now. You can't leave like this, he said. He blocked the way. The men looked at each other thinking, just look at the way he's insisting. We are not going to become dinner for father and son. They shook their heads firmly again. Hari Singh continued to press them and they kept refusing. Meanwhile, his son began to throw tantrums, yelling that he was going to eat the travelers. Soon, everyone was screaming and shouting. Hearing the chaos, the neighbors became so worried and rushed into the house. What's the matter? Why are you all shouting? They asked in surprise. So the neighbors have come to the house of Hari Singh and they heard all this chaos and they got worried. It's just as well that you've come, friends, exclaimed the relieved travelers. Please save our lives. Save your lives? But from whom? The neighbors were puzzled. See, this gentleman here, he invited us home for dinner. And they are refusing to eat, interrupted Hari Singh. Because we know that once we have eaten, this boy will gobble us up. What? Why would he do that? The astonished neighbors cried. We overheard the father telling his son to wait till we have dined and then he could eat both the travelers. When Hari Singh heard this, he burst out laughing. He laughed and laughed, but the travelers were not amused at all. What's so funny? Are we telling lies? They demanded. With great difficulty, Hari Singh controlled himself. He went inside and brought the two sugar candy dolls and he said, Yes, I told my son to eat the travelers after you had eaten. These are the travelers that he wanted to eat. As everyone gazed at him puzzled, he turned to his neighbors and said, You know that I don't eat till I have fed two travelers. When no one comes by, I get these dolls from the sweet shop and feed them instead. I call these dolls travelers. Afterwards, when real travelers come and dine with me, my son eats the sugar candy travelers. He was waiting to eat them today as well, and he got impatient. He started laughing again, and one by one the neighbors joined in. The guests smiled sheepishly and then followed Hari Singh into the house. They had a hearty meal together, and the little boy got to eat his travelers finally. I hope you all liked that story, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves.